Liberia's Supreme Court slams the brakes on the presidential runoff election. U.S. President Donald Trump calls for an end to diversity visas. Will it happen? We'll have a report. And could 2018 be the year of the woman in U.S. politics? Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCorry. This is Africa 54. Now, Liberia's Supreme Court on Monday ruled to halt a presidential runoff vote scheduled for Tuesday until the Electoral Commission investigates allegations of fraud in the October 10th first-round poll. The Supreme Court's order for a full investigation into the complaint suggests the delay could be longer than just a few days that many had expected. No new date has been given for the vote. Former footballer George Weah was set to run off against Vice President Joseph Boakai in Liberia's first democratic transfer of power in over 70 years as Nobel Peace Prize laureate Ellen Johnson Sirleaf steps down after 2 terms. Preparations for the second round were halted last week when the Supreme Court announced it was examining a complaint by the Liberty Party of third-place candidate Charles Bromskin. The National Elections Commission has denied wrongdoing and says the election was largely fair. To East Africa now, a Kenyan former lawmaker filed a petition at the Supreme Court on Monday seeking to overturn last month's repeat election that President Uhuru Kenyatta won. The petition filed by Harun Mwau before Monday, deadline set by the Constitution, opens the door for other legal challenges to the election. Mwau's lawyer did not answer questions on the grounds for the petition. Kenyatta won 98% of the vote on October 26th, handing him a second 5-year term, leading East Africa's richest economy. Following an opposition challenge, the Supreme Court voided a presidential election in August, which Kenyatta also won, citing procedural irregularities. Opposition leader Raila Odinga lost the August vote and boycotted last month's election, saying it would be unfair because the Election Commission had failed to implement reforms. Now, the United States military says it carried out its first airstrikes against Islamic State militants in Somalia and killed several terrorists. The Pentagon's Africa Command says on Friday the first strike was carried out at midnight local time Thursday and another one at 11 a.m. on November 3rd. Islamic State has been gathering recruits in the region, although experts say the scale of its force is unclear and it remains a small player compared to the Al-Shabaab group. Last month, a group loyal to Islamic State seized a small port town in Somalia's semi-autonomous Puntland region, the first town it has taken since emerging a year ago. Now, for more insight on the U.S. airstrikes in Somalia against Islamic State militants, VOA Pentagon correspondent Caleb Babb joins us live from the U.S. military headquarters of the Pentagon. Now, Carla, just kind of fill us in a little bit more about where this airstrike took place and who were targeted.
Well, you have the basic information correct, Vincent. It was in northeastern Somalia. The Kandala chairman, I didn't want to get his title incorrect. The Kandala chairman had said it was about 60 kilometers south of his town is where these 2 strikes occurred. We're hearing that in addition to Islamic State being targeted, some people are saying that Islamic State's leader in Somalia was the target. No confirmation on that from the Pentagon. I have confirmed from AFRICOM officials that there were fewer than 5 Islamic State militants killed in these strikes. A lot of this is still remaining secret, Vincent, because it's very possible that they are still looking for some of these terrorists. If indeed the leader of Islamic State in Somalia was the target, and if indeed he was not killed in this strike, they still may be actively seeking him out. So that's why everything is being a little delayed over here in the Pentagon.
Now, do we know if any other people were killed in that strike? I mean, rather, we do know probably were killed, but do we know any numbers, what they shared?
Right. We do know VOA was able to confirm just this morning that there were fewer than 5 Islamic State militants killed. No civilians were killed. We're hearing that this was a very remote area. Local residents say that they weren't even allowed in this area. The officials that I was speaking to did not want to classify this as a camp, and they also wouldn't tell me what the militants were doing when they were targeted. And I think that that ties into, like I was telling you, Vincent, the fact that this is still actively going on. Maybe they're perhaps still looking for some of the terrorists.
A little bit, just briefly, we know that ISIS, Al-Shabaab is a bigger group and it's affiliated to Al-Qaeda. Are they collaborating here? What are we hearing? Or is this kind of a different kind of effort by ISIS to occupy parts of Somalia?
Well, the intelligence that I've been given, Vincent, points that the Islamic State leader in Somalia actually broke away from al-Shabaab, and al-Qaeda did not want to have anything to do with them. We do know that Islamic State, while it's much, much smaller in Somalia, I do not want to overgrandize Islamic State in Somalia by any means, but they did carry out at least 4 attacks in that area in the past year. Most of them were deadly. The last one, I believe, the only person who died was the suicide bomber himself, but 5 or 6 people were wounded in that attack. So very much a nuisance. And the big thing for the Pentagon is that they do not want to allow Islamic State another foothold anywhere in the world. Islamic State is on the run in Iraq and Syria. They are on the cusp of being defeated there. And so you've been seeing pockets elsewhere. You heard about Islamic State militants in Niger just a few weeks ago. Now we're seeing more activity in Somalia. So this is something that the United States takes very seriously, no matter how big or small the threat is.
Well, Carla, well, thank you very much. That's VOA's Carla Babb reporting from the Pentagon. Well, now, turning to here in the U.S., an ambush that killed 4 U.S. Special Forces soldiers in Niger, in fact, recently drew attention to the deteriorating security situation in parts of the Sahel region of sub-Saharan Africa. VOA's Mariama Diallo sat down with the Malian Foreign Minister Abdoulaye Diop. In this VOA exclusive interview, he talks about what the G5 Sahel nations' work to tackle terrorism will consist of and how much money it will need to function adequately.
Yeah, we knew from the beginning that we have many forces in presence in the region. We have Barkhane, which is a French force, about 3,000 soldiers, covering a territory as big as the entire Western Europe. And also we have the MINUSMA, which is the UN mission, with about 10,000, maybe 12,000 today soldiers on the ground, which has a mandate of keeping peace, where we know from the UN own a report that there is not much peace to keep because we are not technically anymore in a peacekeeping environment. We are in an environment which is mainly marked by asymmetric attacks. And from the UN figures, they are telling us also that 70% of the troops are being used to protect themselves. And we might wonder how much in that percentage remain for them to execute their own mandate. And this is where the G5 come in, where we know terrorists are very active and they are not helping us to implement the peace accord that we signed in Mali. They are not allowing MINUSMA to execute its mandate. This is where the countries of the region, given the transnational nature of the threat, have decided to pool their effort to establish this joint force and to respond to these terrorists and narco traffickers. They are all feeding each other. So if this mission is successful, it creates a conducive and more favorable environment, even for MINUSMA, to execute its mandate. We have also clear complementarity with French Operation Barkhane. We are working together, and they have also some comparative advantage compared to our troops in terms of the technology and the human capacity.
Because you have a $450 million budget that you're trying to raise right now. The U.S. has pledged $60 million. So how do you hope to raise that amount of money?
First of all, we thank the U.S. government for coming out and pledging $60 million US. I think it is an important initial allocation to the force, but it's also beyond the resources, also the trust that the U.S. government is showing toward this regional mechanism, and we hope that they will continue to engage with us to expand this collaboration. And we have a budget of about $450 million. US dollar, which is mainly investments for the first year, the infrastructure that we need to build in the areas, the communication need, the logistical support. To date, we can say with the US support, we are probably about 168 million US dollar out of the 450. We are working with the partners to organize a major international conference for peace and security in the Sahel in Brussels on December 14. To which we expect many head of state to attend, and we expect also to expand the funding base of the G5 to some American countries as well as the Asian and the Arab countries. So we do hope with that meeting in Brussels, we'll have additional support from the UN, from the US, from the European, and also get really contribution from others as well.
Well, in the United States, residents in the small, quiet community of Sutherland Springs, Texas, are in mourning after an alleged lone gunman killed at least 26 people during a Sunday church service. The ages of the massacre victims range from 5 to 72 years old. The governor of Texas calls this the largest mass shooting in the state's history. VOA's Jesus Oni has more.
And be with us, dear, as we learn to deal with these days to come.
Tears and prayers as family members gathered to see if their loved ones are safe.
There's no words. There's just, this happens in New York, in big cities. No one's safe.
A Sunday worship service in a small Texas town turned deadly. Officials say a gunman with an assault rifle opened fire outside the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs and continued shooting as he entered the building.
We are dealing with the largest mass shooting in our state's history. There's so many families who've lost family members, fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters. The tragedy, of course, is worsened by the fact that it occurred in a church, a place of worship.
The gunman was later found dead in his vehicle after a confrontation with a civilian. President Donald Trump in Japan, the first stop on his five-nation Asian trip, had words of support.
We join hands, we lock arms, and through the tears and through the sadness, we stand strong, oh so strong.
Back in Texas, community members say they are holding on to faith even as they grapple with the loss.
It's devastating for us and for our community, but God's still in control.
Yes, sir.
Okay? He's still in control.
Jesus Oni, VOA News, Washington.
Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Now, coming up, could the wildly popular U.S. diversity visa be coming to an end? Stay with us.
I'm Jeff Selden, and I work the National Security Beat. National Security Beat is anything that affects the national security of the United States, from counterterrorism to surveillance to even relations with Russia. It's one of the most fascinating beats you can have. It's probably one of the more important beats that you can cover because it touches on so many areas of the world, so many areas of people's day-to-day lives. I'm Jeff Selden, and my beat is National Security.
Welcome back. Now, when U.S. President Donald Trump called on Congress to abolish the diversity visa program after last Tuesday's terrorist attack in New York City, it sent shockwaves through countries that view the program as a ticket to the American dream. As VOA's Keda Costa-Ricci reports, A proposal to kill the program is already in the Senate, part of legislation on immigration reform.
President Trump called the diversity visa lottery a disaster for the country.
This program grants visas not on a basis of merit, but simply because applicants are randomly selected in an annual lottery. And the people put in that lottery are not that country's finest.
A White House official told VOA that ending the program is part of immigration reform principles the White House submitted to Congress and is included in the so-called RAISE Act. The Reforming American Immigration for Strong Employment Act, sponsored by 2 Republican senators, has been awaiting markup since February. Similar legislation was introduced in the House in September. But a Detroit area lawyer who leads a Muslim advocacy group told AP that eliminating the program is a bad idea.
Diversity has always been what has allowed us as a country to stand as a beacon of hope and a beacon of strength and a beacon of resolve. And any call, political or not, to really close that door and to really extinguish that flame of diversity to the world is troubling.
She says the lottery program does not present any particular threat relative to other kinds of immigration. Washington immigration attorney Kenneth Rinzler agrees.
It's not legitimate to use the recent terrorist attack to knock this program because they undergo the same vetting as anybody else.
Republicans say they will take up an immigration bill in the new year. Whether that will happen depends on many factors, including political ones, such as the Russia investigation and other administration priorities.
First of all, there are very few legislative days left in this year, and they seem to be focused more on tax issues. What they do next year, which happens to now become an election year, an off-year election, it's hard to say.
The diversity visa program was created in 1990 for would-be Americans who don't have family in the U.S. or an employer to sponsor them or who aren't refugees. The diversity visa, also known as the green card lottery, is the only option. It requires a high school degree or a few years of work experience just to qualify. Keita Kostrezi, VOA News, Washington.
Well, the World Health Organization says since the beginning of August, there have been about 1,800 cases of plague in Madagascar, with 127 resulting in death. Bubonic plague is not uncommon on the island nation, and every year some 400 people die of it. But this year, the population also has been hit by plague pneumonia, which is spreading fast through the densely populated areas. Viewers, Gladys Hoke reports.
When new cases emerged outside areas where plague traditionally occurs in Madagascar, even the nearby countries became alarmed. Health officials say bubonic plague is common in some parts of the island, but this is different.
This time we have a pneumonic plague, which can be transmitted from human to human and through air. And that's the first time also that we see it at the scale in urban setting. That makes it, very, very dangerous.
The World Health Organization has sent experts and more than 1 million doses of antibiotics to fight the disease in Madagascar. Health officials say in addition to fighting the disease, they have to deal with local prejudices.
There are rumors saying that if you go to the doctor to get treated for the plague, you don't come out alive, that the doctors will kill you.
But speed can be crucial in halting the spread of the plague.
You shouldn't be scared to come to the treatment center because we can start treatment right away. As you can see, the patients are in very good health. Once the treatment begins, they're no longer contagious after 4 days.
It is not clear why this year's outbreak is greater than the average in Madagascar, but many more people are likely to get infected before the season ends.
The explanation is that in this period, when it is hot and humid, the carriers of the plague, the fleas, develop, multiply, and take hold of the rats. And with the bushfires, and also the exhumations that take place in the winter, it's at the end of this period that there will be the resurgence of this plague, with these 3 factors.
An ancient ritual in Madagascar involves digging up corpses of the loved ones from their graves. wrapping them in fresh cloth and dancing with them before reburial. There are concerns that bacteria on a corpse that had died from the plague can still infect those who come in contact with it. Bubonic plague killed more than 50 million people in the 14th century Europe, but today it is a preventable disease if treated promptly and efficiently. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, the challenges female candidates face when running for office in America. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. It's Christmas party time in London. Now, the British capital's annual Spirit of Christmas fair, Drinks in Tube, is showing off its gin-packed party crackers. The adult-focused party crackers each contain a 50-milliliter tube of gin from a variety of UK-based spirit makers. A box of 6 gin-filled party crackers is priced online for around $62. For fans of festive flavors, UK-based Holy Llama Naturals is touting its range of bottled concentrated herb and spice extract named Spice Drops. Its Christmas collection contains orange, vanilla, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, fennel, and ginger extracts. They can be added to everything from mince pies to cocktails. Without staying in the UK, at this grocery store on the outskirts of London, all shoppers need to make payments is their finger. The store recently installed FingerPay, a high-tech biometric payment system based on a customer's finger veins. It works using an electronic biometric reader that builds a 3D map of the customer's finger veins, generating a unique personal key that is linked to their bank account. It's the first time in Britain that finger vein payment technology has been used in a retail setting. Well, and finally, multiple body piercings and so-called ear bling are now a red carpet trend and mainstay in glitzy Hollywood. Los Angeles-based body piercer says social media and selfie photographs have sent the piercing trend skyrocketing. Fashion experts say there is a big piercing trend for so-called constellation piercings. That means multiple piercings in close proximity, creating a pattern. Millennials are jumping on the trend, with many 16 to 18-year-olds getting pierced. And that is what is trending today. Now, men outnumber women 5 to 1 in the U.S. Congress. But now some are calling the 2018 election the year of the woman, as many women, even those with no experience, jump into political races. For some, this comes in reaction to the election of President Trump, which was protested by tens of thousands of American women. VOA's Caroline Prisuta reports on the determination and difficulties faced by these women as they run against men who are already in office.
Hometown parades rank right at the top, with apple pie and baseball as pure American tradition. And along the way, a political candidate will shake many hands.
Thanks for coming out today.
Jennifer Zordani has to. She's brand new to politics. As she watched the district's Republican congressman get more and more conservative,
I thought, am I going to keep complaining? Am I going to hope that something changes? Or am I going to get out there and work?
First, she has to win the Democratic primary against this woman. And this woman.
Here's pajama time.
A bookstore owner and city councilwoman. And who else?
Okay, let's see.
Carol Cheney, Kelly Mazeski, Amanda Howling.
But wait, there's more. There are a total of 6 Democratic women in the race. And so Zordani fights for every vote.
I'm collecting signatures to get on the ballot. Thank you. I'll give you a little train reading. Thank you.
If she wins, Zordani would be the first woman to ever represent the voters of Illinois' 6th District.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks.
Females make up more than half of the U.S. population, but just about 20% of all senators and representatives are female. Less than that are women of color.
Greeting, Mr. Ramos. My name
In California, Aja Smith is trying to change that.
And I'm a congressional candidate for District 41.
She's an African-American Haitian who is new to politics.
I am calling to ask for your support and maybe a small contribution.
Smith says money intimidates minority women. She's raised $10,000 with a goal of $100,000 by January.
They promise all these jobs, but guess what? The majority of all of them are automated.
Smith is a military veteran running against an incumbent male Democrat who's never served in the military.
We are the largest employer in this area.
She now works as a civilian at March Air Reserve Base in a city that celebrates its military.
I'm just the average person that said I had enough and I want to run for something and I want to be the bigger voice.
Smith says she looks more like her community than a traditional Republican, who she describes as a rich old white man.
What are we doing about our homeless issue?
This Republican group is considering endorsing Smith.
I think it's difficult right now, especially right now, and with this political climate. I think it takes a very special person to have the nerve to run.
Nearly 400 women like Smith and Zordani have that nerve to run for Congress next year. If most of them win the primaries, many are looking at 2018 to be the year of the woman. Carolyn Persutti, VOA News.
Well, in sports news, American Charlene Flanagan was the women's winner of Sunday's New York City Marathon, finishing in 2 hours, 36 minutes and 53 seconds. The men's race was closer, with Kenyan Geoffrey Kimoror finishing in a time of 2 hours, 10 minutes and 53 seconds. His countryman Wilson Kipsang came in second place, just 3 seconds behind after making a final push near the finish line. The race took place under boosted security 5 days after an attacker used a truck to ram people on a New York bike path, leaving 8 dead. Now, the mayor's office said 2 million spectators lined the streets to cheer for the runners. Well, and that's our show for today. And I'll be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com for more news. Tune in to VOA's evening radio show Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching, and have a good night from all of us here in Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. A cannon used to be a common military weapon.
Loose cannon.
So, are Anna and Jonathan talking about an old battle?
Hey, I'm looking for someone to host a political event tomorrow night. Can your friend Sylvia help out?
Sylvia? She's a loose cannon. You never know what she's going to say. She could easily